Welcome to the podcast with me, your host, the Feral Behaviourist. This is the podcast where the dogs are wild, humans are weirder, and nobody is pretending to be normal. Where dog geeks unite, training is weirdly fun, and connection comes first. Hello and welcome back to the Feral Behaviourist. Today's episode title is Good Dogs and the Performance of Safety. So here at the Feral Behaviourist, we talk about dogs, behaviour, the nervous system, and all the bits in between that don't get said out loud. Today's episode is going to be one of those conversations. The ones that might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. So we're talking about good dogs and the performance of safety. So what is the good dog narrative? And what is a good dog? I mean, that's so individual to me as a guardian, and what I believe is a good dog is wildly different to what many people see as a good dog. Because we're all individuals, right? And our dogs are individuals. So generically, if we look at it this way, and we're being really honest, in most spaces, what people mean is a good dog is a dog who's quiet, who doesn't react, who sits still, who tolerates things, and who doesn't make life inconvenient. And I get it, I do get it. We live in a world where dogs are expected to fit into human spaces. But here's a great challenge. What if good doesn't actually mean safe? What is it that we're missing? I see this a lot in behaviour work. A dog who's described as so good, so calm, so well behaved. And then when we look a little bit closer and we pull that curtain back, that dog might be holding their breath, turning their head away, freezing, not taking food, avoiding eye contact. And it's not because they're relaxed, but it's simply because they are coping. And then what is this that I keep saying about the performance of safety? When I say this, what I mean is the dog looks okay on the outside, but internally, their nervous system is not in a place of safety. They have just learned it's safer if I don't react. And that learning can come from so many places, such as being corrected for reacting, being pushed through situations, which we also know is flooding, not being given space, subtle social pressures, and even just repeated overwhelm. So the dog adapts. They go quiet and then we praise it. But the dog hasn't gone quiet and they haven't been conditioned. By adapts, what I actually mean is they have adapted to being in these spaces where they cannot cope, but they're forced to go through it. And what do I mean by subtle social pressure? So many people want to have a dog to take the dog to the pub, or they want to go to some form of group classes or a dog sport, or take the dog with them to their social needs, but not what the dog socially needs. And I mean, and I know that's a great area, like since COVID, 6 years ago. Before COVID, I was doing classes, and then through COVID, I realised that actually classes were not the greatest thing to be doing in village halls and in pet shops. And I think I kind of evolved, and as Mech often says, it takes 20 years for other people to get that same belief system, if you will. So David Mech, who wrote about wolves initially and about them being alphas and betas, and unfortunately Hollywood took that and ran. So we still have that. And David Mech actually predicted it's going to take 20 years for people to say, hey, you know what? That was a load of rubbish. And David Mech has said so himself. So of course, me saying I've moved all my sessions online, whether it's classes or whether it's consults, because I do not want to put dogs in a situation that is not natural to them as a species and is going to detrimentally cause harm, no matter how well intentioned it is. A dog who doesn't have to go to a class in a car to a strange hall with weird smells or a pet shop with a bunch of other dogs. And I mean, my classes were quite small, and we're talking like on the average 2 to 6, depending on like how many turned up on the night. And I was like the maximum of 6 for me, because I already felt torn with this and I hated the idea and seeing online big classes. Like, it really stressed me out. So sometimes people couldn't make it because that's life. Sometimes I'd have 2 in a class and I would still do that class because that was what I was there to do, not to be making money. And again, my ethics and my moral compass made me, lose a lot of money as a business and say, I am moving everything online because it is better for the welfare of a dog, even if guardians and my colleagues don't yet see that. And I've stuck with it for the last 6 years, and I've been doing it ever since. So that's what I mean when I talk about the subtle social pressures. We as humans might want to be social, some of us, and some of us don't. And our dogs are exactly the same. Some dogs lap up the attention by going to a pub, and some dogs are just like so stressed and they want to go home. And then because they seem to be like laid down on the floor, they must be asleep, so then they must be fine. And I think it's our job, our duty as dog professionals to bring this awareness and open people's eyes a little bit more so that they can see what their dog, as an individual dog, is experiencing. So let's have a look further at the quiet dogs. And I do acknowledge, hence the name, that I do say things sometimes that might feel a little bit heavy. The dogs I worry about the most aren't the ones who are barking and lunging, because they are communicating and they are telling us that they are scared and that they need space. Or they could be saying, hey, I can't control myself, I really want to go and play. So again, it's completely different to the individual dog. And the dogs that I worry about the most are the ones who don't react, who just seem to plod along on a walk. They're not enjoying the walk, but because the tail's up, or because they give the appearance of being relaxed, these dogs are saying, like, I'm just going to endure this because I know it's going to happen whether I want it to or not. And these dogs have learnt that their voice doesn't work, and then they stop using it. And why is it that this matters? Well, because when we mistake coping for calmness, we miss the early signs. And when we miss the early signs, we are pushing the dog further that they can actually handle. And then one day something happens and people say, oh, but it came out of nowhere. And it didn't. It was just quiet for a long time. And that suppression can often lead up to these moments of it came out of nowhere. So if we bring this back to a nervous system lens, what we're seeing often isn't regulation, it's inhibition. So a dog can be completely still and still be in a stress response. So many of you that have followed me for a long time know that I talk about the vagus nerve and how the vagus nerve affects the nervous system and regulation. If you haven't heard of the vagus nerve, definitely go and look it up. It's really important to understand the vagus nerve, to understand the nervous system, to understand what not just dogs go through, but ourselves as well. So dogs might be holding sympathetic arousal internally, or they could be dropping into a shutdown response. And neither of these states are learning friendly. They are survival states. And we see this with some humans as well, myself included, being autistic, anxious, having mental health problems. If you said to me, right, we're going to the pub, I would be biddable. I would put on a mask and I would be so uncomfortable and I would not be coping. and then you probably wouldn't hear or see from me for a good month afterwards. And then that would be my choice to do that regulation work, but a dog doesn't have that. So they may have that experience going to a pub where they've had to cope with it, but then they're doing it again the next day, and they don't actually have a choice in it. So let's frame it another way. Instead of asking, is my dog being good? I want you to start thinking about a different question. Does your dog feel safe right now? Because then this shifts everything, and it moves us away from control to understanding, and compliance to connection, and silence into the realm of safety. So what does safety actually look like? A dog who feels safe doesn't just do nothing. They do move, they choose, they engage, they disengage, they take food softly, they recover really well after stress, and they have flexibility. And that's what we're aiming for. I mean, if you looked at my spaniel versus my girl, you would see that my spaniel is one of these dogs who feels safe all the time. He loves life. He loves all the different environments. He loves people, and he is not shy about showing it. Whereas my girl, she would be quite happy if we had minimal interaction. So as an assistance dog, she seems to have the feeling of safety more when we go to hospital than she does in shops. And then that can be because we have bumped into people who have got dogs who are reactive in shops, because the more that the UK is saying, we'll let all dogs into shops, not just assistance dogs, this puts dogs like her at risk, and myself, people like me, at risk. So I can see a big change in Coda. If we're in a hospital setting, she's fine, she feels safe. If we're in a shop setting, she hates it. So I do all my shopping online. Yes, it is more expensive, but it means that Coda feels safe, and I'm not putting her into situations she doesn't want to be in. And also, I don't like being in shops either due to my anxiety. So that works for us as a team and as a guardian relationship. I think that's the important bit to think about as well, is looking at your dog through a different lens, that we're not looking for perfection or obedience, we're just looking for regulation. And if you have to adapt slightly, if you've got a Coda, for example, then it's about embracing Coda for who she is. Whereas if you've got a Diesel who loves life, loves every different environment, is just so happy to see everybody, all the different dogs on the planet, then great, that's amazing. Wonderful. And please don't take away from that. And if you're listening to this and thinking, oh, I might have missed this before, you're not alone. Most people were never taught to look at behaviour in this way. And this absolutely is not about blame. It's about awareness. Because once you see it, you can start to support your dog in a completely different way. Again, it's not about blame. And I understand that it may feel heavy, but it's not meant to feel heavy. It is just about looking at your relationship with your dog in a different way and seeing if either your dog or both of you need further support. Or, some people even say to me when we do this work, you know what, actually, I breathe a sigh of relief now because I hate being social. My dog hates it, and so do I. So sometimes we push ourselves as anxious people into these situations because we think that it is for the betterment of our dog. So just remember that too. And like I say, this is not about making anybody feel bad, and it absolutely isn't meant to feel heavy. It is just a conversation about looking at our dogs through the nervous system lens. So I would like to thank you for being here with me and for being open to these conversations, even when they are a little bit uncomfortable, because this is where the change happens. So, as always, behaviour makes more sense when we understand the nervous system. So, If you would like more information, please feel free to reach out to me and I will be more than happy to talk to you and about your situation and to help you as much as I can. Have a great week and I'll see you again in a fortnight. Take care. That's it from I, the Feral Behaviourist. We've chewed the mic, barked at the void, and left a trail of enrichment behind us. Thanks for being with us. Until next time, may your socks stay unchewed and your treat bins never run dry.